A license plate camera company is changing their rules after our reporting discovered a loophole used to help immigration agents.
We have turned on an immigration filter in Colorado.
A new campaign ad on our air gets the truth test treatment. The state's crisis line prepares for more callers as a national resource for LGBTQ youth comes to an end. And just before dozens of couples say I do, they stop to answer our favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
The good news of the day is
we just
our
got
special
married.
day. Yeah, we just got married.
All that and more tonight on Next.
Republicans in Congress are preparing to work through the weekend on a President Trump's big, beautiful bill. The Senate has made some drastic changes from the first version Republicans already passed, but Colorado Congressman Gabe Evans is already taking a victory lap. Marshall put his claims through the truth test.
Congressman Gabe Evans just voted for working family tax cuts
Well, it depends on how you define working families.
that mean higher wages and lower taxes for working families.
Not exactly. Higher wages is a hopeful part of President Trump's big, beautiful bill. The bill does not require your employer to give you a raise. The claim is that any policy changes could free up money for employers to pay employees more. As for the lower taxes, yes, all income levels would see a federal tax decrease except for someone earning less than $15,000 a year. As for overall income, analysis by the Congressional Budget Office, which crunches numbers for Congress, it found the House version of the bill would mean lower incomes for the lowest income households. For those households making less than an average of $76,000, they would have hundreds fewer dollars a year because of changes to Medicaid and SNAP food benefits.
Evans voted to cut taxes 15%, giving working families $10,000 more every year.
Get the yoga mat out. This is a stretch. The tax cut percentage depends on your income level, and the $10,000 more every year claim likely overstates the dollar amount. The number essentially comes from the White House and is a high-end prediction. A normally conservative group called the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says that claim is based on, quote, fantasy growth assumptions. Could this bill increase incomes? Yes. $10,000 more every year? That's overstated.
No tax on tips and no tax on overtime.
This is true, though the Senate version puts a cap on how much in tips and overtime can be deducted for tax purposes.
And by ending free healthcare benefits for illegals, Evans will expand health savings accounts for Americans.
No, one has nothing to do with the other. Colorado is one of 13 states that expanded Medicaid to cover pregnant women and children who otherwise would not have coverage because of their immigration status. The House bill would punish Colorado and those 13 states by reducing Medicaid reimbursement. The other part of the claim about expanding how much you can deposit in your health savings account, that has nothing to do with the threat of reducing Medicaid payments to Colorado.
Thank you for everybody reaching out about the Gabe Evans ad. It is not a Gabe Evans specific ad. Look here on the right. Nearly identical looking ad airing nationwide with Trump as the main character, not Evans, but with the same claims being made. So this is from a pro-Trump group trying to promote members of Congress that I think they would like to see reelected.
And that's important to point out, Marshall, because there's a difference in the rules around a hey, vote for this candidate versus like, hey, look, they're doing a good job. You should tell them so.
You notice, yeah, it doesn't say vote for this candidate because it's not a candidate ad. It is a, I think it's called a non-issue candidate ad, which is slightly different, but it's a, hey, call this number and let them know that you're happy with him, which I'm sure some people will use that number and tell them the opposite. But the rules are slightly different with, hey, this is just, let's tout what he's doing versus the rules that apply if it's a vote or yes or no for this candidate.
I mean, it might not be a candidate ad, but House members, aren't they always kind of running what the short of those terms are? I mean.
and if you're watching it and you're emailing us, you don't know the difference, and all that matters is what's true and what's not.
All right. Thank you, Marshall, for another truth test. The Loveland police chief is standing by his department's decision that allowed the ATF to run searches for ICE on Loveland's license plate reading account. I'm going to move this so it doesn't keep knocking on my microphone. Sorry. The chief is criticizing our reporting that uncovered this. And at the same time, our Spencer Soicher learned the company who runs the camera network is making changes to prevent those searches from happening in Colorado again.
We have turned on an immigration filter in Colorado.
It's searches on the Loveland Police Department's Flock automated license plate reader account that ultimately prompted a lengthy response from Loveland's police chief, Tim Durant.
Every search in the system requires a search reason.
Flock rep Holly Bellin says searches done by an ATF agent using Loveland's Flock account in April would have been blocked if they happened today.
If that search reason is immigration or ICE, that search will be automatically flagged and then blocked from being conducted on Colorado LPR cameras.
Some agencies, like Loveland, choose to share the data they collect into a searchable national database. But an audit in April shows a Loveland police account ran multiple searches in the database, marking the reason as ICE. Loveland Police says it gave the ATF access to its account, and the ATF confirmed an ATF agent ran the searches. The ATF is not a Flock customer, but says the searches were done for ICE for a violent offender. Colorado law does allow personal information to be shared if it's part of a criminal investigation. Chief Duran backed up the department's decision Friday in a Facebook post and said 9 News is reporting, quote, misled readers and viewers by implying the Loveland Police Department allowed immigration searches through Police Department Flock safety camera access. Duran's nearly 800-word post did not dispute the ATF was running searches for ICE on Loveland's account. Duran has not accepted any of 9 News' 3 requests for interviews, including for this story. His post criticized a line from a previous 9 News story that said immigration agents are not supposed to have direct access to the network, which is accurate. He says 9 News was suggesting the department was violating Colorado laws and said, quote, this is patently false.
No federal agency that does direct immigration enforcement has direct access or contract with Flock.
That filter would seem to work effectively if everyone was always honest, right? But it's important to remember that these ICE searches were only visible in the audit because someone actually wrote ICE in the search reason column. There are much more vague terms in there we've discussed, like sus, suspicious, a lot of different things, crime. Mm-hmm. He wrote ICE, or they wrote ICE, whoever this A bro is, and that's why we're talking about this.
And you're still trying to figure out who is A bro. Okay, Spencer, thank you. The Trump administration is ending a national support hotline for LGBTQ youth next month. The state's mental health hotline, which already is undergoing major changes, says that they have a team of trained professionals who's preparing to fill that gap. Since 2022, callers to the National 988 Suicide and Crisis Hotline have had an option. They can press 3 and be directed to a line staffed by counselors trained specifically to assist LGBTQ youth and young adults under the age of 25. That option is ending July 17th. The Trump administration is calling off a partnership with the nonprofit that staffed that hotline. Now those calls will just be routed to Colorado's general crisis line. The executive director of 988 Colorado says they do not currently have plans to create an LGBTQ specific hotline here, but that all of their staff are trained to be inclusive to all communities.
All trained in our local call centers to handle all different inclusive populations across the state and throughout Colorado. We do not have plans at this point to create a new line within Colorado, similar to the Press 3 option. Our real focus is making sure that 988 Colorado is inclusive of all people and is responsive for all people that are calling in crisis.
So this change doesn't come at a great time for 988 Colorado. They're already expecting increased call volume when they merge with another state crisis line next week. They expect even more calls once that Press 3 option ends. There are also other specialized mental health resources available for Colorado's LGBTQ community. This week, you have pitched in to help them continue. Here's Kyle with an update on this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign.
Thanks for being with Next while I'm away. You may have heard recently that the federal government is ending its support for specialized LGBTQ services on the 988 National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You should also know that there is exceptional work being done by a nonprofit in Colorado to support the mental health of the LGBTQ community. And that's why this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign supports that nonprofit, Envision You. They work across Colorado to provide support for the LGBTQ community with the mental health challenges that are specific to that community in terms of family rejection, in terms of substance use, in terms of hate and discrimination. And they also have a tremendous program that supports the families of LGBTQ youth. To join me in supporting their work, scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491. More than 5,000 of you have signed up to give monthly to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your info once, we split your donation among every nonprofit that we feature. And that means that this nonprofit campaign is starting with nearly $35,000 in donations. Thank you for your support.
Coming up, bike advocates feel cheated by changes to the protected lanes downtown. City, though, they call it an upgrade. And we end the week on a high note with a whole lot of couples saying, I do. That's next. Welcome back. We have a new face tonight on Next, meteorologist Jaden Knowles. Kyle actually took the day off today, Jaden, because he's just scared you'd outdress him.
Oh my goodness. That's what he told me too. I told him I can't compete with him. I just can't.
I think you might. Hey, we've got some good news though. It's starting to clear up ahead of this weekend. It's going to be nice.
Yeah, that's right, Jenny. It's going to be beautiful this week. And I mean, currently we're at 90 degrees and yeah, we saw a nice and warm day. A couple of isolated showers out there. We knew that this was going to happen for the Eastern Plains. Basically, you can see just north of I-70, this cell's dying out. And the reason these storms really just didn't survive is just because it's so warm here at the surface. And that's good news because it's Friday evening. I know a lot of people have plans. Tomorrow, even warmer, 93 degrees. There's that 10% chance for another shower and thunderstorm. But as we look forward to Sunday, that's the best chances for some more storm activity, mainly towards the northeastern plain. But as we head into the rest of this evening, temperatures are just going to be nice and beautiful, especially at the concert tonight. Metallica's performing at 8 p.m., the low 80s, 74 by 10 p.m. this evening. And overall, it's going to be a late sunset as well. 8:32 will be your sunset time. 7-day forecast, you can see as we head into next week, storm chances will start to increase. Jenny?
When it comes to Denver's bike infrastructure, beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. The city says it upgraded protected bike lanes downtown at Blake and Market Streets by removing those bollards that protect the bike lanes. Well, bike advocates, including the mayor's bicycle advisory committee, want those changes reversed. 2 years ago, after the original installation, Dottie has now removed most of those bollards. Those are those short white posts, that keep the cars out of the bike lanes. Now they've got a new design they're testing, adding Zikla zippers. They look like small little curbs. The city says they didn't like how the bollards look downtown, and they're really hard to maintain. The last year's worth of maintenance records show 25 of the 485 bollards had to be replaced or repaired. Those repairs cost the city about $2,700. Here's the thing though, removing those bollards is a $200,000 job. Bike advocates say it's really a confusing use of the city's limited funding for bike infrastructure. Dottie says they're playing the long game, developing a new design that can be used to protect future bike lanes. In our next conversation, photojournalist Chris Hansen sat down with Dottie's executive director, Amy Ford.
Mr. Ford, thank you for taking the time today. It's only been two years since this lane was installed. Mm-hmm. Why weren't these aesthetic conversations happening prior to in that initial design?
Mm-hmm. I think in the initial designs, this was part of our rapid response. With the previous administration and others, we had a goal of deploying over 150 miles of bike lanes throughout the city. And so the goal was to move in, do it fast, do it as quickly and cost efficiently as you possibly could. I think as we are coming in now to go moving past that phase, we're continuing to look about how we move it down the continuum of design. And as you know, we've always had the end game of the full permanent solution with how we think about the concrete and wanted to continue to move us down in the direction of that. We think that this is that step.
You think this is a step towards more concrete, more hardened infrastructure on bike lanes across the city?
Yeah.
There's been such criticism of the change. People that use the lanes are not seeing it as an upgrade.
Well, the protected bike lane is there. It's safe. We have the Zikla environment. I think that how people use the lane hasn't changed. I think that some have asked a question about, whether or not there could be a concern that vehicles could come over those Ziklas in a way that they couldn't if there were more bollards in between. And I think one of the things that we're looking at is we're continuing to monitor that particular design, sort of how we've done the configuration of it.
Talk to me a bit about the decision to make a change and and the lack of public engagement around it.
No, we did talk about this. So we talked about it in regards to our 2025 work plan. We talked about it at council meetings. We talked about it with the bicycle advocates. So we had those conversations. The exact design on how we did it on Blake and Market, no, I don't think we talked about that specifically. But no, we were very open and transparent in the fact that we were starting to look at context-sensitive solutions. Marion Parkway is a good example of someone that started in a temporary configuration and shifted then, once we had the dollars, into that.
Tricky with Marion Parkway is that a death also resulted prior to the installation of the concrete.
Did it, timing-wise?
I believe so.
But when I drive by that particular ghost bike every day, and not quite in the bike lane environment. So the bike lane was already there, and the protected environments are over to the other side of that. So anyway, coming back to Blake and Market, yeah. So as we sit and we look, one of the things that we're always looking at is how do we think about materials? How do we think about design? How do we continue to think about the maintenance of those particular items? How do we think about safety? And how do we put all those pieces together?
You can find the full unedited interview on 9news.com and the Next YouTube channel.
Today is I just married the love of my life, Javier.
It is the happiest day of their lives. Plenty of positivity to go around. Your good news from Newlyweds. Next. Every Friday for the past 449 Fridays, we have ended our week the very same way, sharing some of the good news going on across our state. And over that time, we have seen our share of weddings, especially at Denver's annual marriage marathon. This year's a little different, though. The city has celebrated now its first ever Pride Marriage Marathon.
My name is Paul Lopez. I'm the Denver Clerk and Recorder, and my good news for the day is people getting married.
Honestly, love is love. That's my good news for today.
Our good news of the day is that we are marrying a bunch of couples today for our Pride Marriage Marathon.
I'm Virgil, and my good news of the day is I just married the love of my life.
Hi, my name is Kat, and my good news is we just got married.
So it's the first year that we did this. We usually do it for Valentine's Day, but this year we've extended it to include Pride.
And also that I get to marry my best friend.
Same. Well, this will be my first couple that I get to marry today, so this is my good news of the day, smiling ear to ear for you.
My good news is that finally we get married in the U.S.
Hi, I'm Winona, and the good news of the day is
we just got
married.
married.
Day. Yeah, we just got married.
So for our last marriage marathon, we had upward of 70 couples, and we're seeing that same kind of excitement and invigoration around this event.
Very important, yes. No, we have to acknowledge that we are together.
We've been trying for 8 years to make this legal, and we're so excited to be able to. We just moved to Colorado, so we're really happy.
Having a good life, just, healthy, go through the ups and downs together, just, enjoy your life. Yeah, it's short.
To see people in love coming in, taking that next step, to hear happiness, especially in an environment like this. It's my good news for the day.
Congratulations, everyone. We're back with your feedback next. Thank you. In feedback tonight, you had something to say about Mr. Jaden here. Can I share with you your first feedback? You may be giving Kyle a run for his money. Sherry says, Kyle thought you were the only one who looked sharp. Let the competition begin.
Oh, wow.